fascinated with surface stitches. I have collected many garments through the years that have lovely embroidery stitches on each garment. One technique that I love is couching. Now, what is couching? Couching is the application of thread to the fabric without passing the thread through the fabric. It can be found in embroideries as early as the 1st century. Today we're going to learn some creative ways to use couching. Let's get started. We have so many wonderful techniques to learn today. We are going to have so much fun today making this wonderful purse. Isn't this an exciting technique? 2 layers of organza with all kinds of little threads and sparkly things in between the 2 layers, and then this incredible couching with so many different colors of couching, all beautifully laid down, but yet in quite an interesting pattern. Let's see how easy it is to make that wonderful purse. All right, now first of all, you can look at these threads up here. We're going to be using them in just a minute. I'm using a paper-backed fusible. I have a purple piece of organza on the bottom. I have pressed this paper-backed fusible, then I pull the paper away. I cut the little threads and just kind of put them all over this, and then I take one more piece of fabric and fuse the whole thing. Now this fabric has the 2 layers, one on the bottom, one on the top, with all of the wonderful things in between it, all fused together. Now I like to use a fusible fleece to give the body to the purse, so I'm going to put the newly created piece of fabric down, iron it to the fusible fleece, and then this piece just almost looks like an aquarium to me. This is the beautiful shades of blue. Can you see how when you just glue all of it together, which really is the fusible, but you glue it together, but then how much prettier it is when you come in with this really, really interesting couching? I'm so happy to have Linda McGehee as my guest today. She is representing the Warm Company. She also has her own pattern line and business called Gee's. Linda, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Martha.
Oh, show us how you do all of this wonderful fun stuff.
This is the same coloration as the bag that you were looking at on the board. This is orange with red underneath, and they both have couched threads, the same ones that you were showing over there. What I do is take a paperback fusible medium, and there's paper on both sides of the medium. Pull the paper off one side and place the paper on one layer of the fabric that you wanted to be on the bottom. Once you peel the paper off, you're going to take stuff. Now I pulled these threads from a bobbin. I was finished with the project, and the threads just curled around so much I thought they would be perfect for this. I'm going to take some other threads from the spool and literally just chop them on there. This is kind of like cooking. A little bit goes a long way, and you can just sprinkle some of those there. We're going to go to the party store and get some of the little glittery stuff that you use at parties, and I know how you like to party. So,
and then vacuuming them up is always fun.
Yeah, well, we're real careful with that too, but it makes a nice little glitter for the floor too. Sprinkle some other things. That one has surprise on it. There's hearts and music and whatever. Gently lay the top layer of organza on top, and before you press, you will want to use a press sheet so that you don't overpress the organza. Okay. You don't want the organza to melt. That would be extra texture. We can work around it. But once you press the layers together, this is what you'll have. Now I'm ready to do a little bit of stitching. But before I do stitching, why don't we put some fleece, the fusible fleece, on the back side of our fabric, and this is going to stable it enough for a handbag. If you wanted to put that other piece of fabric on another garment, you might work with that without the fleece, but I need the stability of the fleece for the back. And I'm going to do some sewing with a multi-hole foot. Okay. Now this foot has 9 holes in it, and they're available for every machine on the market. They may not have as many holes, but there are 9 holes in the foot, and you put a different thread in each hole. So you can see I've used 5 of the holes in the front. Okay. And I left the back ones blank so that you could see them. Okay. If you're not in the mood to thread all 9 holes, you don't have to. You can just use 2 or 1 or 9. Okay. And we will stitch over top of that with a honeycomb stitch or one of your decorative stitches that moves forward at a slanted position. Now what I'd like to show you, another way to sew is to a foot with a larger hole, and I have 4 or 5 of the threads in the hole already. And we're going to twist the threads.
Okay.
And I'm working with the threads from a spooler. And the stitch that I'm working with is a multi-step zigzag.
You're just driving it all over.
We're just driving all over. I changed the width of the stitch so that it was as wide as my stitching, or my heavy threads.
Okay.
And the stitch is longer. Now you may call this an elastic stitch, or you may call it a darning stitch, but my machine doesn't do darning, it does decorative work. And so we've got the stitch that you cannot even see. You're showing the decorative threads on top. Very easy to sew crooked and add rows after rows of thread. Now this is a cotton fabric, just like your quilter's cotton, with lots of stitching on it. This is a beginning.
Now wait a minute, how did you get this, how did you get that crinkly like that?
That's a wrinkled base fabric. What we did was put the fabric in the washing machine, run it through the rinse cycle, pull it out, wad it up, put heavy duty rubber bands around it, just twist it, really wad it up, because you're trying to form wrinkles for the longest time. See, you press the wrinkles out, I want the wrinkles in. So we're on opposite ends of the spectrum here.
And you so wiggly.
So crooked on wrinkled fabric.
So crooked on wrinkled fabric, I love it.
Now,
ooh, how pretty.
Now we've cut this to make the bag.
Okay.
And I've placed the casing piece. This is the piece that holds the frame. So the casing piece is at the top. I've trimmed all the excess around. I'm ready to add the corded piping. And you know, a lot of your faux suedes give on the crosswise grain. So that is your bias. And we've used that to make our piping. Our corded piping is inside the fabric, and that's finishing the outer edge of the bag. Now, one trick that's really important, this could become awfully bulky at this corner. So what I'm going to do is pull the cord out and actually trim the cord away so that when I sew this seam with the other side, that bulk is going to go out into the seam as opposed to the top.
Okay, well that's a fascinating idea.
So you need to eliminate bulk when you're working with big, thick cording, and that's one way of handling it on this particular style. Now, I do have a bag that isn't put together yet, so I wanted you to see how easy it was to slide the frame in, and also the joints. The joints have not been put together, they're separated. They work kind of like a door hinge. So we're going to close them and pull the fabric out of the way and take our little rivet and slide it into the end. And you will have a completed bag. We need to do it on the other end too, but you will have a, pull the ends back, scoop that around.
So you make one side at a time, and then you put those little rivets in to close it up. Well, that
it's like sliding a curtain rod in. You don't put the curtain on the rod until you've completed your sewing.
Well, that's right.
So there, it's real easy, quick to put together. I can spend days on my embellishing and just a few minutes putting the bag together. You ought to be able to put a bag together in less than an hour, but you could spend days, like I said, putting the embellishments on.
This is so much fun. I would just like to hold this purse up so everyone can look at the, and this is a faux suede that you've used on
the top, yes.
On the top, this wonderful little handle, and it opens up so nicely, and you even have a little zipper pocket in here.
And zippers are so easy to do.
Oh gosh, everything you do is easy to do, and you know what? It really is. This can be put together in an hour.
After you've completed your embellishing.
Okay, and we can take days on the embellishing.
We can take days on the embellishing. These are the same fabric base, but look at the difference in the color combinations of threads. Gives it just a little subtle different look.
Well, I just think this is so much fun. This kind of is your gypsy spirit, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
This is just absolutely wonderful. And being a former dance teacher, you probably know how much I love glitter and shine and costumey. This is just elegant. Linda, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And now Linda has some sewing inspirations to share with you. Linda, I just adore your technique. And don't you have some of this same technique on your vest?
Yes, the same thread work is used on the vest It's just in a cotton thread, so it's not as glittery and shiny as some of the threads that we were using on the sewing machine.
Oh, let's go back to some of the fun sewing. Linda, this is my all-time favorite, the fish purse.
Isn't that wonderful? And the fabric on the body is the same as the organza and decorative stitching that we were using earlier.
With the things in between it.
Lots of glittery stuff in between.
I just have to show them the back of the fish.
Detail with fins and everything.
The fins and the fishtail.
And that is a usable bag.
Oh, absolutely.
On days that you want attention, you carry a bag like that.
Oh, it is so cute. All right. Now tell us about the technique on this bag.
This is the same style bag we were using earlier. It's just a little bit more fabric, so it's gathered on the frame. The fabric is quilted. So we took the large design that was in the fabric and then just stitched over it to enhance the design.
Absolutely beautiful. But you did use some of the shiny threads.
Some shiny threads
and some
mixed
not
with
shiny.
It's okay to mix. You can mix and match and play. It's okay.
Having fun.
As long as it looks good to your eye, you're fine.
This is so precious.
We started off with the white fabric, dyed the fabric, added the couching, the ribbons, and the threads, like we've looked at. That's entree beading in there.
Oh,
that's
dyed.
Dyed, yes, so it doesn't have to always be white and ecru.
And it's that scrunchy fabric again.
Scrunchy fabric. We used a double layer of ribbons and tied them in a knot so they look like tiny rosettes.
Oh, how adorable. Well, I thought they were rosettes, and those are ribbons tied in a knot. All right. Now, Linda, I love this vest, and I think that I really also love this pin. I know I do. So tell us about this vest.
Well, the pin that you mentioned is embroidery.
Okay.
It's a computerized embroidery stitched on an organza base and trimmed away the edge so that we have dimension. Where your hand is showing some of the couching techniques that we were just using with the multi-hole foot and the braiding foot. The undisciplined lines of the crinkling and the couching has been added to the straight, very rigid lines of the piecing. So it's okay to put combinations together.
Now, the purse matches it.
Well, you always use a little bit more fabric than you think you need so that you can use the leftovers to make a handbag.
Oh, this is really wonderful. You've got your piecing, and then you have your glittery, adding that little bit of glitz to the end. And you know what? This one has just one of those wonderful snaps.
One of the magnetic snaps.
Magnetic snaps.
They're easy to put in and keep your bag closed nice and tight at the top.
I really like the two pieces that match. Very coordinated.
Great. Thank you.
Linda, thank you so much for being here. This has been so much fun. I'm sure our viewers are going to just love these techniques.
I've had a great time too, Martha.
Thanks again, Linda. And now I have a quilting segment for you. This Hearts and Stars quilt is so beautiful. It has really a combination of traditional quilting as well as heirloom sewing. Now the heart that is in this particular star is the one I would like to talk about today. I love lace shaping, and I especially love lace-shaped hearts. Lace-shaped hearts have two techniques of lace shaping, and there are only three. It has curving, it has mitering, and the only other one, really and truly, in all of lace shaping is just flip-flopping. So two of the three lace shaping techniques I'm going to show you right now. Okay, I take the piece of French lace and I put the pins into a board. This is a board, and I'm sticking the pins, and I do use glass head pins. I put the pins into a board, and you see I have a little heart trouble here. It's kind of sticking up. I bring the pins around to the center. I put a pin at the top and a pin at the bottom. Then I fold the lace back on itself, remove the top pin, put it through two layers, and a perfect miter has been folded in. Now I've got to get rid of this heart trouble right there. So French lace has a gathering thread or two or three built into the edge, and I'm going to get one of those. Watch what happens. Oh, this is magic. It is just magic. All I do is pull that thread that is built into the French lace, and this curve magically lays down. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit about how we do. I pull the lace just a little bit when I shape the heart. I bring the pins around, and I go around and do the other side exactly like that side. I just put the pins in pretty close together. When you're going around a curve on a heart, you put the pins pretty close together. Let me get around here. I won't put them too close together because I want to show you how to do this bottom miter also. I'm not going to even pull the second side for you. I'm just going to pretend like I pulled the second side. to show you how to do this bottom miter. There's one more type of miter. All right, when I come to the bottom, I'm going to pick up the lace. I'm going to turn it underneath itself. Now remember, I've already pulled that second side down. Turn it underneath itself, put a pin at the bottom, and a perfect lace miter has been folded in. Now I do have to remove it from the board before I sew it. So I'll remove the pins, and the next step is, after I remove the pins, I pin it flat in a few places so I'm ready to get some stabilizer. Now first of all, I've got to cut off these little lace tails. I'm going to do that right now. So this is what it looks like after it's been removed from the board. Both sides have been pulled, the bottom turned under, and it's pinned flat. It's now ready to go to the sewing machine for either a zigzag on the outside, zigzag on the inside to attach it, or a beautiful pin stitch with a wing needle if you have a pin stitch on your machine. But a zigzag will do just fine if you don't have those heirloom stitches on your machine. Isn't that a pretty little lace-shaped heart? Now then, if you do have a pin stitch, you will do the pin stitch with, and this one has a large needle, not a wing needle. You will do the, let me turn it over, hang on a minute. The pin stitch will go on the outside, on the inside, and I want to make this lace heart peekaboo. And especially on this quilt, I want to make it peekaboo. So how do I make it peekaboo? Well, I'll come in from the back, and very carefully, I will trim the fabric from behind the lace, and I mean, when I say carefully, I mean carefully. And you'll trim the fabric from behind the heart, and then when you cut it away, you're going to be able to see through that heart. And I have one final version here, which I've already cut this away. So I have the pin stitching with the large needle on the outside, not a wing needle, and I have trimmed the fabric from behind. So I have that beautiful little peekaboo shaped heart, and it's especially pretty on this quilt that has the quilting, traditional quilting fabrics to show through also. And that's all there is to doing a lace-shaped heart. Remember, those were two of the techniques for lace shaping. Mitering and curving and flip-flopping is all we have left to learn. And next I have some hand embroidery for you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today Beverley Sheldrick from New Zealand. Beverley is a regular contributor to So Beautiful magazine. She has taught needlework worldwide. She teaches regularly at the School of Art Fashion in Huntsville. Beverley, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Martha. Thank you. Now, Martha, today for our viewers, we're going to do the Spider's Web Rose, which is this one that we've got here. And of course we'll do the bud as well. Now, it's probably the most common of all the roses, and certainly the easiest to do. And I find that just from time to time I need to do just a little refresher on it for students. They've perhaps done it some time ago, they've forgotten, so this is why I'm going over it again today. It's very, very simple. You will see here that you start with a star. Now, this little 5-sided star has been worked with a fly stitch there, and then you just hang a pair of wings on it and you end up with something like that. Now, we do need to have 5, because when we come to the silk ribbon, then you will see that I have come up, you go over and you go under, and because it's 5, where there was an under before, it becomes an over. Now, we're not going to worry about whether the ribbon twists at all, because that's what gives it just a little bit of extra character, I find. It forms the petals. Now, you will see there that I filled approximately 2/3 of the rose with the darker colour. Then I'm going to take the lighter colour, and you can see I've brought it up and I'm going around here like this, just continuing the rhythm of up and down. Now, the bud for this, I've done just first of all a straight stitch in the darker colour, and then I've taken the lighter colour, and you can see I've just put 2 straight stitches either side like that, just fanning them so that we have this little dark section just peeping out on top. And of course, to finish it, I've used thread, and I have just put a fly stitch to surround it and make it look as it should. Now you will see here, for those of you that are just not quite sure, fly stitch is a very common stitch, and of course you can always find it in any embroidery book. So here we are, we've got the Y there. Why do we call it fly stitch? And then you can see how I'm just hanging a pair of wings on the side like this. Now you will see that I have here, I've got my ribbon all ready to go, and I'm just going to wind it in and out just like this. Very, very simple. For the first round you'll go fairly tightly, but after that then just slacken the tension, and I find that's the mistake that most people make. They tend to make the whole thing far too tight and they wind and wind and wind. And I call those wealthy ladies because they've used an awful lot of ribbon. Now you can see how I've come up here again, and because the last one wasn't over, this one will have to be an under, and so of course you're just continuing to go on round there until you've finished it. Now again, be sure not to make it too big. That's another mistake that I find girls make. They make it too big. You should be able to get round this last time approximately 2 times. Only very rarely will I have to do 3. Now the bud, of course, was just a little straight stitch like this, and then you can see that I'm going to put these 2 out. Just remember to fan it slightly like that. We're not too worried about it, just let it do as it wants to do, like so. And then you will see, of course, it's that fly stitch. And this is the thing about silk ribbon. Creatively, we use just a few numbers of stitches, and it's what we do with them that makes it just so pretty. And of course you can see, there we are. Now if I was going to have, if this was on a stem, which I would do this in stem stitch around here like this, rather than just, but if it's a clump of rosebuds, as you can see I've done on the tablecloth, then you will see the center one, which is the tallest one, I've stem stitched it all the way down to the main stalk, and then the 2 side ones I've just done them like this. Just makes a pretty little clump, I find.
Beverly, thank you so much. That's one of my favorite roses, by the way, and it's one of the first roses I learned how to make many, many years ago.
And that was the case with me too.
Oh, thank you so much, Beverly.
My pleasure.
And now I would like to share some of my antique clothing with you. This blouse is ever so interesting, and I'll tell you all the little secrets in a minute. First of all, it's very beautiful. It has just very simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pointed flowers, a little eyelet in the middle, and little dots that are simply a padded satin stitch. And it is embellished on the top. And the very interesting thing about it, this is the front of the blouse. The interesting thing is that the back, I cannot find any way at all that I ever saw how this was fastened. There are no buttons, there are no buttonholes. It seems to me there is no place where a beauty pin might have been put in here, although I don't think women wore beauty pins. I cannot find any way that this blouse was ever worn, because there really is no evidence of its being fastened in the back, and certainly you would have to fasten a blouse before you would wear it. So I kind of think that maybe this blouse just didn't get finished. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Now at first I thought that it was meant to be buttoned in the front, so you have to unravel the next mystery. Why did I decide it wasn't buttoned in the front? Well, first of all, the tie probably would have been in the back. You wouldn't have put a tie in the front. And the seam is right here. The arm sleeve is in the front. So even though if you look at another part of the cuff, it would seem that this is the back. I mean, it's just amazing, the mysteries on this blouse. As a matter of fact, they may have put the sleeves in backward and just decided to put the blouse in the stash that never got finished, if you want to know the truth, because the sleeves do appear to be in here a little backward to me. Anyway, that is part of the fun of collecting vintage clothes, is just trying to figure out the mysteries that go along with them. And I think you enjoy my sharing that with you too. I hope you do. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've just had a lot of fun, and I hope you have. And I'd really like to invite you to come back next time.